It's time for another episode of the Franchise Business Radio Show, broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. Sponsored by Franchise Intellect, a full-service franchise consulting and development firm. More info at franchiseintellect.com. Also made possible in part by Social Joey, the social media experts that provide a hyper-local presence for your franchise. More info at socialjoey.com. And now, here's your host, Pam Curry.
Hello, welcome to the Franchise Business Radio Show. This is Pamela Curry, franchise advisor and host of Franchise Business Radio. For our listeners out there, you know that the purpose of this show is really to have a platform for bringing together franchise professionals and resources to connect, educate, and collaborate to serve the franchise community. We have a couple guests in the studio here, and we have one virtual guest that's going to be joining us. Just to give you the lineup for today, in the studio, we have, of course, Ken Douglas, Director of Business Development and partner with Social Joey. Hello,
Good
Ken.
morning, Pam.
Good morning.
What a great day in Buckhead.
Yes, long time no see. The weather's improving. We're happy about that. In addition to the studio, we've got John Krachowski, which took me a long time to learn how to say that last name. But just to make it simple on everybody else, we just refer to him as John Q. Hey, John, welcome back.
Hey, and you're getting real close to pronouncing it properly.
Oh, darn.
Do you have Rosetta Stone for your last name? Yeah.
Say it for us, John.
It's Quattrocki.
Oh, darn it. Okay. Well, John Q is in the house.
Everybody tries to make it a little more complicated than it is. Actually, if you know your Latin, you know what my name means. Quattro means four. Oki means eyes, stands for four eyes. Which is a great name for an accountant because you get a second set of eyes on your books and your business, right?
Oki means a little bit something different here in the South, but yeah. Well, back to your regular show already in progress. Yeah.
Leave your personal life out of this.
John, welcome back. And not only that, what we're going to be focusing on with John today is really just some tips on making business ownership easier. And his deep background in the restaurant space actually is merged very nicely with our virtual guest. Our virtual guest is Patrick Morlando, and Patrick is the Director of Operations for a franchise called Enjoy Your Party, which is revolutionizing the food service staffing industry. Patrick, welcome.
Well, good morning. How is everyone today?
Excellent. We are doing well. So, Patrick, since you're virtual and you're not in Buckhead, let our listeners know, where are you calling in from?
I am calling in from New Jersey, the northern part of the country. The nice, we should be getting some fall weather, but we've got some summer weather here.
We're experiencing the same thing here. Mother Nature is confused.
We're ready for the cold. Mother Nature keeps giving us warm, so my leaves are confused because they're falling off the trees, and I'm still sweating. I should be getting cold right now.
Understood. Well, Patrick, let's just share with our listeners a little bit about your background, and then specifically get into the business of Enjoy Your Party. It's our understanding that you are the Director of Operations, and basically, when we think about food service staffing industry, Enjoy Your Party is Director of Franchise Operations. You explained that the brand is headed as demand for staffing services just continue to climb. And we know that no one knows the food service better than you. You obviously have had a deep career that is focused on rising through the ranks in the increasingly on-demand segment. Your first job actually was scooping ice cream at the age of 16?
That's correct. It was my entire professional career has been in the food service business. So that is correct. 16 years old, scooping ice cream.
Well, that's led you to where you are today. Your most recent job was as the sales operations manager for a leading coffee company. And now here you are helping fuel the success of the emerging franchise concept called Enjoy Your Brand.
Correct.
Excellent. Kind of talk to us about that as the Director of Franchise Operations for Enjoy Your Party. tell us a little bit about your appreciation for what it is that you do and the services Enjoy Your Party offers.
Typically everyone goes to an event someplace, or they're having a party in someone's home, or they're going to a wedding at a banquet facility, or even some of these corporate functions. A lot of people take for granted the staff and where the staff comes from, and how the food gets delivered and how the food gets presented. Where Enjoy Your Party's role in the existing is to protect the brand of our catering partner. So whoever the caterer is, they can make the best food in the world and present it beautifully on the plate. But if it's not served properly, or it's not cleaned up, or just the whole presentation, that whole experience is null and void. So Enjoy Your Party, we certainly understand that. And our goal is to provide top-notch service. The vision started in 1994 from our founder, Rosanna Morlando, who actually is my wife. And since 1994, we've provided well-trained servers, bartenders, kitchen staff to the catering industry, so they can just have one less piece to worry about as they put an event together. They don't have to worry about the staff. So that's what we do. And staffing is, in our opinion, has always been taken for granted, that it just happens. And it doesn't just happen. It's, we're out there strictly devoted to food service. And we make sure that when we go to any event, we follow our core values and our mission statement every day. And our main goal is to protect the brand and make sure the vision of the event is achieved.
Wow. Patrick, you really just hit on something there, because we were just at the Women's Franchise Network event, and the guest speaker, Mary Kay, she was actually speaking about the core values. So that definitely creates the culture of the organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Share with us a little bit about, what have you grown to? How many employees? How far is your reach today?
Well, like I said, we started in 1994. And my wife, Rosanna, founder, she asked me a question. She said, where do caterers get additional staff when they need them for special events? And I looked at her and I said, I think you're going to figure it out, but I got to go to a meeting. and I walked out the door, and then she sent out some flyers, just, kind of getting the feel. So here we are in 2017. Enjoy Your Party has over 450 employees. We cover staffing in 5 states: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Florida.
Wow.
We've gone to Chicago. And that's one of the things that we realize with our core values. As we send staff to events, you have to personally know each individual that you're going to set, from their work attitude to their presentation to their skills. And at over 450 employees, we're at the point where it's tough to know everyone. And we struggled for about 2 years, and that's why we decided to go down the franchise route. In addition to the 5 states, we have 4 major national food management company contracts where we do all their staffing for. And that's, keeps pulling us deeper and deeper and deeper. We were, just to kind of put that into perspective, we were the approved service provider for the 2012 RNC down in Tampa, the 2016 RNC and DNC in Ohio and Pennsylvania. And when the Pope came to Philadelphia, we were the approved service provider for them.
Wow.
So sticking to our core values and how we go to market, we just don't send the staff there just to fill, to satisfy our bottom line. It's how we go to market, and that's how we were recognized, and we got the opportunity to staff those major events.
Congratulations. I think there's a round of applause for that. That is exceptional.
It's a tremendous undertaking. And that's, at 450 employees on a daily basis, I call it the war room where we go in and we have our scheduling team, where they're broken up into the different categories: corporate events, private events, national account events. And the folks there just, they work in unison, and it's magic, watching it happen. Because you have to look, and then sometimes if there's a person that changes, for the event that they're on, it could be a 4 or 5 person switch, because we match the theme of the event to the personality of the caterer, to the personality of the staff that's going. Because if you got to go to work and you're at a party, if the right mix of staff isn't there, then there's a risk of the vision not happening. So,
Patrick, this is John. I just wanted to ask, I think dealing with 450 employees is relatively easy compared to a husband and wife trying to work together in a business. How do you guys deal with that challenge?
Well, when Rosanna had started the business back then, I was working for a major food company as a director of operations. And when I joined her, it was very difficult for me to understand that she was the founder and she was the creator of the company. But I've developed where, I respect her position. We both have our separate roles. She's the CEO, makes all the decisions, and I handle all the franchising. So we've grown to stay in our individual spaces. And we make our own decisions for our individual groups, but we also come together, for the health of the company and make sure we're going on the right direction. It's very hard when a husband and wife work together. I mean, we've been just recently married 30 years in September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And, 23 years in business. So all of the whole life we've been working side by side. So, it was hard to come across, but we've mastered it at this point.
Excellent. Patrick, when did you start franchising? When did you officially decide to break out of just being a privately held company and founder of a concept and say, we need to package it and franchise it? What year was that?
Well, and that's the interesting part. And that's one of the war room conversations that Rosanna and I had, because, it's the birth of the company. We've always maintained our brand and our reputation. And as we were growing and the national accounts start coming, and we started bringing on people in more states and growing rapidly, we tried to manage it, from our office, but you start losing contact and start losing touch with the workers that you're sending. So we spent a long time on, either we continue to grow, because there is certainly a need for, trained, qualified staff. And there is a lot of companies that do what we do. But I think the way we go to market is very unique, where we actually touch every customer and in touch with every employee. So we're sending the right one.
Absolutely.
So it was hard for us to really understand, how do we find the right person to be a franchise. So it took us about 2-3 years for us to kind of kick it around and think about it. So in late 2015, we decided to franchise, and we became legal with our FDD in March of 2016. And quite honestly, we've had probably 100 different leads over the past year plus.
Wow.
And, we sit down and we talk about each individual, and I don't know if I can say this, but, we're not sure if, they're a right fit, if they're a right fit for Enjoy Your Party, because the person has to be, sales driven, focused, people oriented. So it's been a long road, but we've come to the grips, and now we're looking to find that right individual to move.
That sounds fantastic. And congratulations on 30 years of marriage and 23 years of working together. What a solid relationship you guys must have. And I mean that with all sincerity. Patrick, what does the ideal Enjoy Your Party franchisee, what would that individual look like?
Well, in the food service business, there's a very small world, right? Everyone knows everyone.
It's family.
It's all family, right?
Yes.
And the natural progression of food service workers like me, we started scooping ice cream. And as we moved up to, some type of manager, food service director, maitre d', somewhere that's, someone that's kind of worked up the ranks. So the ideal candidate that we're looking for is someone that's been doing that and has that experience. And real key is to have front of the house experience as well as back of the house experience. Because anyone can train someone to serve food, but if they don't understand the total mechanics of a party, proper staffing levels, proper table setting techniques, proper sanitary techniques in the kitchen, what levels of staff that you need, how many people you need on an event, that's disposable, the china, or so on and so forth. So the ideal candidate that we will look at is someone that has been in the food service business for so long. They're looking for a career change, but they don't want to get out of the food service business, and they're interested in doing something else. This is a great opportunity for them to transition from a career to business ownership. They've got all the national tools. We've got, a bunch of national accounts that we can provide to them, and they can hit the door running. And what's nice about it, it's a low investment. There's no brick and mortar. You can be in business in 45 days. And it's a great transition from that experienced food service work. And if anyone's out there that's listening to this, probably in their mind, they never thought about staffing as a viable option. Everyone that I've talked to that I've known over years, and they just hired, being in the business, everyone has the vision of opening up a little corner luncheonette, Monday through Friday, just for breakfast and lunch, and it'll be done.
That's right. Right.
But this is just a great, they can, keep their hand on the pulse of the food service, be intimately involved. And there's so many things that they can do. They can get into event planning. They can get into, we have a mobile espresso unit that we send out, to different events. So there's a lot of options, and it's a great transition from, food service into your own business.
I want to talk a little bit about that, because from a franchise perspective, you obviously have the backbone of what it is needed to be a franchisee. And Patrick, I totally agree with you. There are different industries where someone can step into it maybe with no knowledge, but there's something about the food service space that it gets in your blood, right? It just becomes, it's a part of who you are. And just to give an additional business path to those that want to stay in the industry but are looking to make a change, great opportunity. You did mention it. It's a low investment, but let's back up a little bit for those that are listening. Help them visualize. Like you said, they never think about this. Help them visualize, what does a typical day or week look like as a franchisee? What would that look like for them?
Well, that's very interesting. My typical day, because of, the footprint that we cover, always starts out every morning, me in the war room, talking to the scheduling team and finding out what's going on, what we have on the schedule. Just for example, I got a call at 3:00 this morning, that one of our national accounts, their utility person called out sick, so we had to, get them a utility person for 6:30 this morning. So that happens frequently. Large events, where we're sending a bus today out to Pennsylvania, with 17 staff members on it for an event that's been scheduled. So we talk about those probably for a good, 2.5 hours each day, and kind of lay out the week. We'll talk about, anything new that's come on, the mix and match. And that's, the main conversation. And then that's just constantly going, all day long.
Understand.
And then from there, and then after that, I get into the administrative, part of it, talking to our accounting department, making sure that, that obviously that piece is all taken care of. We do all our own payroll in-house. So our HR department's managing, all the paperwork, because it's the nature of the business. It's a very high turnover rate. So having, a key office support to make sure that all the documentation for each individual is in place, is there. So before you know, you turn around, it's, 3:00 in the afternoon, then you're going out and I'm talking to my customers, getting a report card on, of who the people that we sent. Did you like them? Did you not like them? Did they fit in your mix? Because that's key. In the food service business, sometimes it's, in any type of business, you get excited when somebody comes to work, right? So they're there. Oh, great. I got, a person there. But if they don't fit the mold, we have a customer that might be getting an individual that they don't, doesn't fit their mix. But because they went to work, they're not going to say nothing. So we solicit that feedback to say, hey, do you like this person? What are the skills? And very open communication back and forth. Then I'll go out and I'll visit some of the, bigger events that are going on. And then, sales for other individuals.
Patrick, sounds like a typical day is pretty full for you.
It's definitely full. My day usually starts, 6:30, 7:00 in the morning. And I usually don't sit down to have a cup of coffee till, 6, 7 o'clock at night, and just kind of, have a family business recap of the day, of what transpired. Because one of the things I didn't mention earlier, it's not only my wife and I that are in the business. My 2 children are in the business as well. Maria Morlando, she's our director of training and development. She's graduated with her teaching degree. And has taken our training program and has completely turned it into a fantastic curriculum where it's interactive with it. People come in for their training. So, she updates us on, where she is on training classes that are getting scheduled, her field checks on, spot checks on employees, and do spot check checking out there. My son Giuseppe, he's the office, manager type, where he's, day-to-day operations of, scheduling, if I'm not around or Rosanna's not around, handling, fielding phone calls, just, all internal operations. So it's a family affair. So our dinner, after working 12 hours, our dinner at night as a family is, recapping the day. So it's a 24/7 job.
Very, very interesting. Hey, I have a question for you. I'm running a catering business and I need that staff. How much notice do you need ahead of time? Give us a little bit about the front end process when the customer is going to reach out to you. Well,
that's the $1 million question. I tell all my customers, you have your key peak seasons. Certain times of the year where everyone's getting married or everyone's having a graduation party or whatever. If you think you're going to need staff, please get it onto the schedule. If you don't need them, then we can always replace them someplace else. If typically we can, for example, today we had a 6-hour turnaround. Customer call this morning. We had a utility person there at 6:30 in the morning. So depends on the position, depends on the time of year. We can do same day, but obviously larger events, we like as much notice as possible so we can make sure, that we've got the right people to the event.
Right. And that makes total sense, and in that 3:30 phone call that you got in the morning, I mean, that really kind of leads into the leadership and development. And could you talk a little bit about what makes a great leader in an executive team?
Well, if I could just go back a little bit here, and I think it goes back to why we wanted the franchise. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that do what we do in food service staffing. We have competition throughout the country, some of which are strictly devoted to food service, most of which do everything from light industrial to food service to administration to you name it. And as a manager of a branch, sometimes they really don't answer that phone at 3:00 in the morning, and they don't, I didn't hear the call, or, my phone was turned off. So they're not going to staff or make the effort to go out and staff that event. As an owner, as a franchisee of Enjoy Your Party, they always say got skin in the game, right?
Absolutely.
They're going to be more in tune to make sure that their phone is near their nightstand.
That's right.
To make sure they answer the phone. Because if they don't, then the brand Enjoy Your Party gets damaged because we're going to be unreliable. So that's one of the key reasons why we decided to franchise and kind of pull back a couple of years ago of opening offices and putting the manager in there, because it happened to us, and we know that it certainly hurts us as we were moving forward. So, an executive management team has to be someone, that realizes and understands, the business potential of who they are, of what the business is, can generate, as well as understand that you might have to be a dishwasher.
That's right.
When your major account, calls you and you don't have a dishwasher, you got to roll up your sleeves. You got to get out there. So, as an executive management team, we're managers, we're in charge, we make the decisions. But we're right out there in the, in the field with our team.
Absolutely. You're in the trenches, and that definitely makes for a good leader. And, just to let you know, Patrick, you hit on something very key when it comes to the franchise space. And that's this. Franchising is an incredible growth strategy. And part of the reason why it's such a great growth strategy is because you are getting invested business owners. They have skin in the game, to use your words. And it's a win-win for all parties, not only you as the founder of a concept, but also because as a growth strategy, you're getting individuals that are having more of a hands-on owner-operator mentality, and they have skin in the game financially, and they need to make it successful locally. And that's why as the founder of the concept, you're getting someone to invest in your business. In addition, you're getting the talent to run it on a local level. It's a beautiful business model. I'm just curious, John Q, with everything you've heard, I see your head bobbing up and down. What are your thoughts around that?
I have no thoughts. No.
Never.
It popped into my head. I interviewed a potential new client that was opening a restaurant, and I asked him, what made him decide to go into the restaurant business, and he said he was tired of working so hard. And I immediately started thinking about who would be the great second owner of that location, because obviously he was going to be a 90-day wonder. And it is that dedication and that passion that keeps places like that, going and putting that stuff in. So I believe that finding that right person, and I've always defined great leaders as having great followers and the right opportunity. Mm-hmm. I mean, who would have ever heard of George Patton if World War II hadn't come around, right? So he had that opportunity. So taking your skill set as an individual that's looking for a career and applying it to a particular franchise concept like yours is the way the match has to go. And does this concept provide the opportunity to most fully utilize what skills you have available? And I'm sure that's a big part of your decision making when you decide to take on a franchisee.
Absolutely.
So I just kind of want to throw up a couple topics for a roundtable discussion. And you actually, on our side conversation, brought these up, Patrick. And I do think that there's some myth around, just say the F&B, the food and beverage industry, right? Many of those that are considering franchise ownership, they immediately want to go to a food-related concept because it's what they know as a consumer. But the points that are really being touched upon here is that it's a lot of hard work, and there's got to be a lot of appreciation and value around it. So let's just kind of roundtable discussion. education around the food service industry, the importance of trained and qualified food service staffing. If you were going to say something to those that are listening and want to educate them around the food service industry, I'm just going to do a roundtable discussion. John Q, I'm going to kick it off with you. I know you work with a lot of restaurant owners. What advice or education would you give around that?
Well, everybody has their certain things they want to emphasize. And obviously in the restaurant business, things like appetizers, drinks, and desserts are the biggest profit margin that some places have. And I was struck last weekend. I went out to eat and, I got the cliche after dinner, did you save room for dessert? I just, when people say that to me, I get the impression of, oh, you glutton, I just saw you stuff yourself for half an hour. Can we pack any more food into you? and I know that they're trying to train their employees to upsell or sell for dessert. I can remember once talking to, I had a waitress come over and said, "Oh, we just got this fabulous new dessert. I'm sorry, I'm late coming out to see your table, but I was just eating it. It was so fantastic and wonderful. I had to finish it." And I think you should get that. It's the same exact end game, but of course the approach was completely different. Is that a big part of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned something that is a huge pet peeve of us. Every time we go out, we're watching the food service. I mean, sure. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and the keynote speaker, was doing his presentation, and the staff was clanging dishes. One guy dropped the fork on the floor and kicked it clear across the floor instead of bending down and pick it up. So I noticed that thing, but the one thing that really, really irks me, I'm sure you've heard this one. What can I get you guys? The server will come to the, what can I get you guys? You guys want a drink? And
boy, that sounds very Jersey.
When Maria does her training, that's she talks about that a lot. And it goes back to what I said earlier. Food service, it's just assumed, that someone is going to serve the food. They just show up, and training is so key. I can't stress it enough. And Maria does a great job, educating. Nobody goes out to an event until they've gone through Maria's training class. Excellent. She's, I call her, remember the old Hanes underwears, Inspector 12? That's Maria. I mean, nice. She doesn't let anybody go out to a training class without going to a training class because it's important. It really is.
I got another question. Question is a little off the subject. Tip jars at private events. They always kind of make me feel a little uncomfortable to have a bartender at a private event, in somebody's house or at an event facility that have a tip jar in front of them. What is your policy on thoughts on that?
I think that's page 2 of the training manual in big bold letters. No tip jars and no food goes home with you.
Got it.
You're right. It's especially at a private home. It's embarrassing to put it up. If someone's going to give you a tip, you're obviously going to take the tip. Sure. But no, we don't allow even in banquet facilities. I was at an event this past Saturday. It was a comedy fundraiser for a major hospital group in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And I walked up to we had 4 bartenders at 2 separate bars, and there was a tip jar in front. And as soon as I was walking over, the bartender looked at me and started saying, "I didn't put that there." The event coordinator did, because they know. And I went over to the event coordinator and I said, "Take that jar down. It's very cheesy. We don't
it goes against your values. Your values, absolutely. Hey, Patrick, speaking of event coordinators, planners, I would think as a franchisee, an owner, you would want to heavily be networking with event planners. That would be a value add to your business when it comes to catering. Is that an additional revenue stream to their existing business? Talk to us about who are the business partners or the individuals that your franchisees should be networking with to build their business.
Well, and that's a great topic because, as we looked at our model on who we wanted to target, as potential franchises. We often thought about, what about an off-premise caterer? That when their business gets slow, is this a value-added business to their business that they can expand on? So we kind of, put our toe in the water on that. And we looked at it and we said, you know what? Maybe they wouldn't be a good fit because when their business grows and they're in their busy season, they're not going to worry about the Enjoy Your Party part of the business. We have, 4 national accounts that we need to staff, and they might not focus 100%. So a couple of people that we've thought and we've been targeting and networking a lot with are specific event planners.
Okay.
Event planners, party rental companies, where they rent the tables and the chairs.
Absolutely.
It's a great added business to them. We've talked to a company that does limousines. Oh, and they have like charter buses.
Yeah.
Where this would be a great added business to them, and an additional revenue stream.
Absolutely.
And specifically with event planners, they're leaving to chance. An event planner will meet with, a bride. We'll use a bride, for example, for a wedding. And, they'll spend days and hours and days talking about the vision of how they want it to go. They'll go out and they'll select the caterer for it. And then they kind of hope the day of the event that everything comes together, right? The flowers look great. The venue will look great. The food will look great, but it's in June and the caterer is like, oh, I got a million things going on. So the first thing they do, is they ask, their staff, if they've got some friends who's got some friends, well, they'll go to one of these, internet posting sites for jobs and you'll get someone that'll show up that most likely in the wrong uniform, most likely has no experience or maybe has experience, but maybe was working in a diner or some type of restaurant that doesn't have any banquet experience.
Sure.
And all of a sudden that vision just gets shot. So event planners, as a great added value to their business, they can have a core set of staff, right? That, they can have the maitre d', the captain, the section supervisors, where they can add that piece of business to their fee, right? So when they're at least having their own management team that can kind of run and control, the caterer or the staff that's going on. And in addition, while they're not been planning any events, it's a great added value to their business. So I think those are key people to look at.
Great. Now, so let's just do this, kind of getting on the second half of the show here. I do want to make sure that our listeners know how to get in touch with you. If you wouldn't mind sharing, what your website links are, your social media links. It's very memorable, but I'll let you share.
We have our website is www.enjoyyourparty.com. That's our company website.
Okay.
Our franchise website is www.enjoyyourpartyfranchise.com. And then on Facebook, we're under Enjoy Your Party. And then we have an Instagram. It's enjoy_your_party.
So if someone wanted to reach you, Patrick, with the best way to do that, would it be just to go to one of those sites? Or do you have an email address? What would be the best way for someone to contact you if they were interested in learning more about becoming a franchisee?
Yeah, my direct email address is P, as for Patrick, Morlando, MORLANDO, @enjoyyourparty.com. And that's directly to me. And then our office phone number, I can give it's a toll-free number. It's 888-397 888-397-3979.
Patrick, repeat that phone number for us again.
888-397-3979.
Okay. And just again for our listeners, it's P Morlando. That's P as in Patrick, Morlando at enjoyyourparty.com, correct?
Perfect. Yep, absolutely.
Excellent. I want to circle on Patrick. Thank you so much. Wow, what a wealth of information. And I know that as you've already alluded to, that this is a huge need out there, an incredible business model for the franchise space. And one last quick question for you: are you targeting some specific markets that you want to have franchisees in, or are you open? Any specific markets you're targeting?
Well, as our plan, as we roll out, we already have a strong presence. We actually have our own office that we do up in Albany, New York.
Okay.
And we have one down in Florida.
Okay.
Down in Boynton Beach, Florida. What our goal is to target the East Coast and keep everyone, or keep our franchise within a 5 to 7 hour car drive from us. This way we don't believe in just the nature of a business. We looked at other franchise models, and, you go out to their university, you learn how to make their sandwich, then they come back to you and they spend 2 weeks with you, and everything else is done through the POS system. We're looking to invest a lot of time. Our training model, is 2 weeks here at our corporate office in New Jersey, where we go through all aspects of administration, training, working all the different events, private events, corporate events, banquet events, special events, train the trainer on the training classes. We also, Maria is also our TIPS, alcohol certification trainer. So she can train that person, to the franchisee, to be alcohol trained, so they can, step that down to their individuals, to understand the levels of intoxication. Mm-hmm. And then we go through the whole recruitment and selection process with franchises. Once that's done and that 2 weeks is done, we go to your office, for 2 weeks, and we do the same thing there. And we want to keep it within that 5 to 7 hour driving range. This way, if a special event does pop up or we need to react, we're not at the mercy of an airline to get there. So we want to be able to get there quick.
No, I understand. A lot of
so we're targeting the East Coast right now.
East Coast,
and then as our footprint grows, and the nature of our business too is we don't need to have a lot of franchises, right? Okay. Just because the territory.
Understand.
So key placed franchisees would be the ideal one. So
kind of creating your own boutique franchise system. Yeah.
Right. So one person, we have in our package, we have a single franchise and a development part. And we encourage the development because, you can buy 3 franchises, and you can operate all 3 territories, out of your one main office. Right. Mm-hmm. So finding the right one that's looking for growth, is where we're going to market.
Excellent. Well, and by the way, I really appreciate the strong training and support, because that's definitely something that is dear to my heart, is the appropriate training and support to put someone in position for success. What I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and shift gears here, Patrick, and we hope that you can stay online with us. We know you're sure. with us virtually, but I want to move over to John Q. John has been in the studio before, and he has got so much knowledge, especially in the food service space, and really just tips on making business ownership easier. I know you work across many industries, John, but let's stay in the space we're in right now, the food service industry. I guess one thing that this is a general question. You and I have talked about this for that, let's say, restaurant owner. Let's get out of the staffing side. But for the restaurant owner, when they are having to manage all of those moving parts and costs, what comes to mind for you around that?
Well, going back to Patrick talking about his first job scooping ice cream and relating that to food cost. I was at an ice cream shop and I got a triple scoop sundae. The employee put the 3 scoops in a cup, put it on a scale and weighed it. And apparently she had put too much ice cream in there. So she went to the sink and she scraped some of the ice cream out of the cup into the sink and washed it down the drain and then handed it to me. Obviously very, very well trained not to overpackage her product and to keep the food costs down. And, just the general impression that we would rather throw this food away than give it to you. Is kind of an overemphasis on food cost and relates obviously keenly to what you guys were saying about proper training and doing things the right way.
But John, let's talk about cost. So
Sure.
if someone owns, this area of expertise, if you were going to be advising let's say a restaurant owner, and I know there's going to be different variables that come into play for the business model, the financial business model. Sure. Generally, where do you want to fall with your labor costs, your food costs, your equipment costs, your, real estate costs? Is there a general model to follow around that?
Well, ideally, we want to put 15 to 20% of sales on the bottom line, which means you'll run 30 to 35% food costs, maybe 25% to 30% labor, and then your occupancy, your rent, you want it to be the general rule used to be closer to 10%, but the way conditions are, that's going down and maybe approaching 5 or 6%. The misleading thing about that is that any percentage is a cause and effect. So you can look at a restaurant and say, wow, your rent is 15% of your sales. You're paying too much in rent. But the reality is your sales are just half what they should be. And if you doubled your sales, your rent percentage would drop in half.
Absolutely.
And even on the labor side, and Patrick will know this too, that your labor is not always a variable cost. It's fixed too. You can't hire a dishwasher and have him clock out when there are no dishes to wash and clock back in when there's another one and then clock out. You have to have that one hostess up front. And again, you can't make her clock out because there's nobody walking in the door. So separating, your fixed overhead labor from your variable labor is another thing that needs to be considered. And yes, like Patrick says, there's a point in time where you may have to roll up your sleeves and do some dishwashing too, because you just don't have a second one available, and that particular guy is overloaded.
Yeah.
So I think
some of the enjoy your party.
Yeah, exactly.
Your labor slides. When you're busy, your labor costs go up. When you're not busy, you don't have fixed labor costs. You don't have to have that case of French fries in the freezer, or the grill turned on.
Right.
There's virtually no overhead.
That's right.
So you need a computer, a phone, and a notepad and a pen. And you're good to go.
Good.
Yeah, staffing model is a beautiful business model. And John, I kind of want to just stay on this path just because of how many franchisees you work with that actually have physical restaurants, Patrick, not in the staffing space, but actually have physical restaurants. Like one thing that obviously comes to mind, and everyone hears this, is that the greatest failure rate is in the restaurant space. Yet at the same time, statistics are easily manipulated. At the same time, we see more and more restaurants popping up, and there's reasons why people are getting into that space. If you were going to give advice to someone who was entering into being a restaurant owner, how just John, how to avoid failure? I guess that would be one of the first questions that come to mind.
Well, and especially for a multi-unit operator, we like to say that your Taj Mahal location maybe is your third one. Get the doors open as quickly as possible with as low a fixed cost as you can. And, if you look at the first Chick-fil-A dwarf house, it just doesn't look the same as what a current modern Chick-fil-A looks like now, right? Mm-hmm. So his vision for what his locations were going to ultimately look like were not the same as the first one he opened that started generating revenue. So get open as quickly as you can, get open as affordably as you can, and start generating revenue. Another problem that we see often is undercapitalization, mm-hmm. where somebody goes out and gets enough money to get the doors open, and the first day they're operating, they don't have a penny in the bank account, and they expect to be profitable from the first minute. Planning your 30 to 90 days worth of operating capital into your acquisition cost and into your working capital needs, I think, is one of the most important things you can do. Now, the other side is, do you want to have a slow opening that gradually builds and not do a lot of advertising, have a lot of word of mouth, and just slowly crank up your volume? Excuse me. Or would you like to go out, hire a lot of marketing people, get a big bang, and spend that upfront money to get your tables as full as possible, as early as possible? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And two schools of thought there. And I think Ken might want to have a little input on that.
I would say this, that I think one of the advantages of franchising for anyone that's moving into restaurant ownership is they're giving you that roadmap. They're preparing you for not only around the site selection, the build out, hopefully getting some economies of scale in place on those very important variables when opening up a restaurant location. In addition, they have that item 7 in their franchise disclosure document that's allowing you to have an outline of what that estimated initial investment looks like. Do I have some operating capital in place while I'm ramping up the business so I can survive? So, I do think there is a lot of failure in the restaurant space. I think it's because you do have a lot of independent mom pods who are trying to make it work. And definitely one of the value points from a franchising standpoint is you're being put in a position for success. You're being given that roadmap. You're that no guarantees. There's always risk involved in business, but hopefully you're definitely putting yourself in a position for greater success.
Certainly. And, if you are serving, if you're serving a burger, how do you price that burger? What's the retail? Do you base it on on what your competitors charge? Or do you do it scientifically? If you're in the franchise space, you will have, a good model of how much it priced, how much it costs, mm-hmm. and what your profit will be based on that. And I think a lot of that work is done on the franchise, by the franchisor, that eliminates a lot of that risk there.
Right.
And, I'm charging $5.99 for a burger because the guy next door is charging that. Well, your cost might be twice what his is.
Absolutely. And understanding all of those details to get to the needed margins. John, how would someone reach out to you, just to get, your services and help?
Well,
business ownership.
Sure. I'm at johnq@johnqcpa.com is my email address. Anybody can email me with good, bad, or silly questions, and I'll take the time to answer them. My office number is 770-395-0223.
What's that number?
770-395-0223. My office physically located by the new Brave Stadium. Wait, the season's over, so we can't call it the new stadium. Actually, it's the second newest stadium in Atlanta now, right? And you can reach me there. And obviously, I love meeting with people. I love evaluating business plans. I love contributing to business plans. helping people run the numbers, understand the numbers, and see where they're going to get from beginning to end, see what capital is involved. We have lenders and other resources that are comfortable in the restaurant space, and other suppliers that would make the whole experience easier to put together, and put together a whole package for you that'll help you get up, get rolling, and get started.
A great show. Really, Patrick, just really appreciate you sharing with our listeners the opportunity to enjoy your party. John Q with a lot of deep experience and tips on making business ownership easier. Wonderful resource. Ken, before we wrap up the show, any updates that you want to share for our listeners?
We do have a couple of updates. And first, I'm going to give a book plug here. And I don't normally do this, but because of our discussion today with Patrick around franchising,
yes,
what we've been talking about, ownership and skin in the game. There is a book that I read this year called Extreme Ownership, and it's written by a couple of Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin.
Yeah.
And they take battlefield examples and apply them to business. And it's a fantastic read, and it's the best book that I've seen where you can take an employee and get them to have that sense of ownership in the business, even though they don't own. And it's just a fantastic book and very pertinent to the discussion that we had today.
And give me the name of the book again.
Extreme Ownership.
Extreme
if you Google
Ownership.
It, it'll pop right up.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great tip.
It's a great book. A couple of other quick updates.
Yes.
HR 3441, the joint employer bill, is now out of committee. And it came out on October 10th out of committee, and it'll be going to the floor. Now, I think we've had some discussion in the past about what that means in the franchise space. And it's called the Save Your Local Business Act, and it's called that for a reason. So, but it's great news. It came out of committee with bipartisan support. A couple quick updates. We got FranTech out in San Diego, October 19th and 20th. And then the Emerging Franchisor Conference, put on by the IFA in Phoenix, Arizona, on November 6th through 8th. And if you need information about those, you can go to ifa.org.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Really a great show today. And just want to thank all of our listeners. As a simple reminder, Franchise Business Radio, this is your host, Pamela Curry, and this is a platform for bringing together franchise professionals and resources to connect, educate, and collaborate to serve the franchise community and the franchise consumer. Thank you for listening in.
Thank you again for joining Pam Curry and her guests on the Franchise Business Radio Show, sponsored by Franchise Intellect, a full-service franchise consulting and development firm. More info at franchiseintellect.com. Also made possible in part by Social Joey, the social media experts that provide a hyperlocal presence for your franchise. More info at socialjoey.com. Use the social media links here to share today's show and check out more episodes at franchisebusinessradio.com.